Shia LaBeouf was fired from Don't Worry Darling to keep Florence Pugh safe, says Olivia Wilde. I have a lot to say on this, and most of it borders on like the exasperated and annoyed. Mainly, like there's a weird obsession in modern Hollywood with the concept of safety. Now, I'm going to get into what I mean by that.
I wondered whether this was prompted by Florence Pugh herself asking for Shia LaBeouf to get fired, or was this purely Olivia Wilde's decision?
Well, she hired her boyfriend afterwards, so
I know, but also, to be fair, he was the original casting pick.
We don't know that.
It says she wanted Harry Styles in that role, but he was touring.
Who says that? Her? Am I supposed to take her word for it? I don't know if I believe it.
They say Harry Styles was touring at the time, so Shia LaBeouf was casted instead.
Sounds like we had to cast somebody new, and we're going to make it sound like we wanted them all the time because it's good press. I'm just being combative.
Do you think
right now.
that she was casting Harry Styles just because she thought he was hot?
Yeah, she wanted to hit that.
That's it.
I prefer Shia LaBeouf.
It's kind of creepy.
It is.
I prefer Shia LaBeouf and I like his dangerousness.
Yes,
but I will say Harry Styles is really good in that war movie.
Oh, Dunkirk. Yeah. Okay, so
they call him a Dunkirk breakout.
Oh. I thought he was
I wouldn't ever call him.
There's I remember watching like a funny it was like a YouTube documentary back in the day about like the curse of putting like and introducing in front of a title of an actor. So it's like every time it's like an actor's first big role in a major film, they put and introducing as if it's supposed to mean something that.
Did they do that to Lady Gaga when she started?
That doesn't even count. She was already famous before so
so was Harry Styles.
But this is more done with. It's usually done with like breakout child stars and stuff like that. They put in.
You see them on sitcoms.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it says director Olivia Wilde wanted her Don't Worry Darling co-star or cast, to not have to worry about on-set safety. I love the idea that they just like everywhere to them everything is dangerous all the time, and you'd think that they were like literally fighting off jihadists. By the way, they describe how they're on set.
I mean, I like that she's talking about on-set safety when she is kind of being the creepy director.
She's literally she's reversed the roles, and I didn't even include the article that was full of all the
reversing that power dynamic that they talk about so often.
They always project.
Yep.
Everything they hate, they become. Or they already are.
I also want to point out that in no point in this article where she's quoted does she ever sound like an actual living, breathing human being. She sounds like a literal walking publicity
It's super
release.
rehearsed and manicured, you're right.
So it says originally Wilde was cast in the lead role of Alice, a suburban housewife who starts to question her husband Jack in their 1950s town, Victory, California. Yet when Wilde decided she wanted a younger couple at the center of the film, she immediately thought of her Midsummer star Florence Pugh and Dunkirk breakout and international pop star and you forgot boyfriend Harry Styles.
They weren't dating at that point.
Well, then she's grooming him.
She was grooming him.
Grooming the adult. If they can call it, yes. Yeah. I'm kidding in that part. However, Styles was touring at the time. I don't believe that. I believe that he
literally was.
And then
the pandemic canceled his tour.
I believe that he was touring. I don't believe that he was the first choice. I'm just being a jerk right now because the article annoyed me. I say this as someone who is such an admirer of his work. His process was not conducive to the ethos I demand in my productions. Well, demanding sounds very, very rude.
Yeah, that's a
microaggression. That doesn't sound very like you're listening and believing, and it doesn't sound like you're absolutely. You're not making it a very what would you call it, like an artistic process.
It's funny
very
because
dictatorial.
She's talking about what she demands in her productions and then blames Shia LaBeouf for having a demanding persona on set.
What I have learned from Olivia Wilde is that she's maybe the most terrifying in the world to her is the idea of like taking responsibility for your own actions, or that like what you do is
not Olivia Wilde in particular, but everyone in Hollywood.
I'm referencing there's that other article that I was reading from earlier off air, which wasn't super relevant to this, but the whole thing was like that. It's all feminist garbage. He has a process that in some ways seems to require a combative energy, and I don't personally believe that is conducive to the best performances. So, I mean, if art is supposed to be open-ended, right, and different performers have different processes, there's something to be said, and I agree with her that if she doesn't feel like it works for their production, that's fine. But I'm more annoyed that she's talking about it as if like she's talking about it like she's a living press release. And I do want to point out the first question I asked myself was, given the headline, which says to protect Florence Pugh, I said, was there something that she needed to be protected from other than...
I think here's the thing. They said later this same year, his FKA Twigs filed that lawsuit against Shia LaBeouf for abuse.
Yep. The civil lawsuit.
We've talked about this on the show before. They're going to actually go to trial with it next year in April.
Yep.
And there are some pretty crazy allegations in it that I think should be, heard out in the proper context. But it would have been different if they had fired him only after the lawsuit came out.
Yeah, that's not what they're talking about here.
They fired him just because he was difficult to work with. And to play devil's advocate, since you're so...
I'm not in a devil's advocate mood today.
You have such a bone to pick with her. To play devil's advocate, I think it's only fair if he's being hard to work with, and men on set, especially men who have more name recognition and
she
fame,
has more social capital than he does now. Florence Pugh is absolutely
because of gender politics.
No, because because of the
just
roles.
Their
Marvel.
roles.
In general, I think that she would be considered that.
I just mean it's way more important for women to be easy to work with than men, and he's kind of being held to the same standard.
Whereas in the
that
past,
she might be.
Whereas in the past, you could say that the hypocrisy would have gone the other way in the past. Whereas if it was a male director and combative was the more normal. They still would have held the women to the different standard and said you should be easier to work with because she's a woman. So I agree with you on that.
And I don't doubt that Shia LaBeouf is difficult to work with. I think he's notoriously he has a reputation for being at the very least offbeat.
Didn't he tackle Tom Hardy on set at one point?
I'm gonna read what they said here about this was under the Don't Worry Darling IMDb page. It says, ahead of filming, Olivia Wilde fired Shia LaBeouf and replaced him with Harry Styles. LaBeouf displayed poor behavior before production and clashed with the cast and crew, most notably Florence Pugh, whom he allegedly driven to tears by calling her a R word. I'm not going to say that word. Wilde also had disputes around the same time regarding their prior project, Rainsford, Love Me Like You Hate Me, which in 2022, which resulted in her removing her director's credit from the video. So one thing that I thought was really interesting is imagine she was on this project with him in 2020. They clashed so much that she's has her name removed from it for whatever reason, and then she gets saddled with working with him again on a new project. Yes, that would absolutely be crappy and stupid, but it
doesn't seem like she was the one who pushed for him to be let go, though. It seems like it was Olivia Wilde who
you mean it doesn't seem like Florence Pugh. Yes, absolutely.
To credit Florence Pugh, I don't think she was.
You don't think Florence went quietly to Olivia and said all this stuff
Probably.
in the past and was like, I need help here?
Listen, girl boss.
But she would have already known that, right?
Yeah.
So I think the thing that annoyed me the most was the term "no assholes" policy, which is the most. It's right out of.
I found that laughable too, because that is entirely the ethic of Hollywood that they're disseminating to the rest of society right now. Is just be inoffensive, be rather polite, don't have any principles, don't have a backbone, and just don't rustle any feathers, basically.
I want to talk.
That's their policy.
Yes, and I want to talk about one particular. When I talk about her sounding like a living press release, there's a specific phrase in here that bothered me so much. This is my job now, where something bothers me so much, I get to make an entire lead a show with it because it's so annoying.
You have cartoonish steam coming out of your ears.
A lot came to light after this happened. They're talking about what happened with him and FKA Twigs. A lot came to light after this happened that really troubled me in terms of his behavior, Wilde said. For our film, what we needed was an energy that was incredibly supportive, particularly with a movie like this. I knew I was going to be asking Florence to be in very vulnerable situations. Well, isn't that what your intimacy coordinators are for? And my priority was making her feel safe and making her feel supported. What about him? Is he deserving of support?
No more. he's
No,
falling.
I mean, I don't know exactly
Did
what
they-
the situations are she's referring to, whether that
it's so vague.
in the script, like what that actually means.
The book's smart director added, I believe that creating a safe, trusting environment is the best way to get people to do their best work. There's an argument to be made for there that different directors have different styles. You may be able to pull the best performance out of someone. That's fine. I'm fine with that. Ultimately, my responsibility is the production and in the cast to protect them. That was my job. It's like they focus on anything but the actual movie. But then it's down here. She says, as for LaBeouf, who is set to star in Abel Ferreira's Pedro Pio, Wilde added, I find myself really wishing him health and evolution because I believe in restorative justice.
Ugh.
What does that mean?
You mean she's in a
What
cult?
the hell does that
It
mean?
means she's in a cult.
What
and that's
does-
why they
It's,
left
I
him
think
out.
it's left intentionally vague. All of it is because it's so PR friendly. But what
They say
I
everything.
mean,
That's what I'm saying. They say
a
nothing.
charitable interpretation would be that she
Go
is-
on.
I'm not here for charitable today. I'm sorry.
She's trying to say, like, he's a complicated person. Not everyone can get along, and maybe he can come out of this and learn something.
But she's
from
already
it.
proven in her mind him guilty. Like he's an
Has
asshole. He's an asshole because they got rid of an asshole and the no assholes policy.
Then I want to break. Then I want
And
to.
he needs restorative justice,
Yes.
which means he's already been found guilty, even though he's never really been in anything but the court of public opinion.
So I guess the idea is evolution is like she hopes he grows to be more like her and be less combative.
In the cult.
And then
It
then
is
the
all
other one-
about, yeah, you're
and
right
what-
that it's all about not being combative, and the fact that they then casted Harry Styles.
Right.
who
The
she will
poster boy.
walk all
He is-
over.
The poster
He
boy
is-
for emasculation.
Yes, exactly. He is the prototype of like non-combative
It's
male.
embarrassing.
Right.
Okay.
Like someone who is just entirely neutered.
Okay, I just want to say this also real quick though, and it's something that Mary was saying earlier. Is I do agree, or maybe it was Brett. Sorry, but I do agree with the director having complete control, and she feels like this isn't going to be conducive for her environment. Then so be it. Like it's the artist, would do what you want. I definitely would prefer to see Shia LaBeouf in something though,
Yeah.
as opposed to.
I'm excited for this Pedro Pio
Yeah, I haven't seen anything about
film
that.
because I've known about it since its beginning stages. I didn't think Shia LaBeouf was like the best suited to be behind it because I know that he's kind of mentally unstable.
And what-
but
how
I'm
do you
interested
know?
in it as a Catholic film.
Right.
I don't want it to be a film that is sort of biographical information and takes away from the spiritual dimension of this person. He's a saint in the Catholic Church. I know some things about him, not everything, but a lot of his story is like that he was a mystic, that he there are a lot of miracles associated with him and healing and bilocating and all of these things that I don't think Hollywood wants to portray as plausible.
Did
Even
Pedro Pio believe in restorative justice? That's what I want to know. What the hell? I want to know what the hell restorative justice means to somebody not
You have
convicted
to
of a crime.
lash yourself.
I don't
50
think
times.
that she's the one who came up with those words.
She's not.
though.
She's just regurgitating.
She hired somebody
She's a
to come up
regurgitator. And
with these statements.
Professional
You're probably right.
scumbags,
So-
the lot of them. And by the way,
You're
none of
probably
what
right.
I'm saying means that I think Shia LaBeouf is a great guy because
No.
there's more than enough
Yeah.
evidence to say that he's combative and hard to work with.
There's
and all
almost
these
part of
things.
me that wants to sympathize with Shia LaBeouf more because he is like actually just being a real human being, and sometimes that means you don't get along with people and you're mean
Great art
and
born out
angry
of conflict.
Right.
and like it's extremely believable that he's not the most mentally stable guy. He's a former child star. Like I get it.
I go back and forth also with this whole thing of creating a safe environment because on one hand, when you're trying to make anything, I think any drama or discomfort could be an obstacle to what you want to make. But on the other hand, I love things like Eyes Wide Shut with Stanley Kubrick and what he put Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise through
Yeah.
would never happen today.
And their marriage suffered because
It destroyed
of
their
it. Yeah,
marriage.
Destroyed their marriage.
But I love that movie.
Yeah.
And so it's like I'm always balancing that, and I'm thankful to mostly work alone when I'm writing and not have to deal with any of this stuff.
So then my question is, like, I'm trying to think of like really, really famous. Somebody in the chat might be able to help me with this one. I couldn't think of off the top of my head like a really iconic female director. I know that there are more than a few adequate ones, but in general, when you think of like really, really famous movie directors, you're going to think of men. So,
and often that's because men have the personality traits necessary
Catherine Bigelow
to be commanding
on
set and have a
the Wachowskis, I guess.
a very individual creative vision.
True.
The Wachowskis, maybe. Like
Sofia Coppola. I'm looking at a list now.
Yeah, okay,
I don't know a lot of these people, but I do know Sofia Coppola, and I love Lost in Translation.
So it's like they're there, but even the traits that she's describing of like, it's my production, we're going to do things my way, is a masculine way of approaching a feminine tactic, which is fine.
It doesn't have to be
Yeah,
masculine,
she's been in this industry for long enough that she'd be conditioned into that mindset anyway.
So she's conditioning. You know, she's using.
I want to bring up this conditional. Like, what if they had never? What if they started filming with Shia LaBeouf and then the lawsuit came out? How would they have to respond then? It would have been a much higher cost.
I don't know.
And then they're responding to a public situation that they don't have personal insight into.
Yeah.
It kind of puts them in a more difficult position than just to say this person is combative and difficult to work with, and like any other workplace, he had to go because he was the common denominator of all of the problems.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And looking at the arc of most of these like Hollywood icons, I feel like Harry Styles is due for his own day of judgment, because it always happens.
Maybe.
When you're a darling in these people's eyes, you will fall at some point.
Well, there's already been, like, we covered queer baiting the other day, and the idea that.
But that's such a vague accusation that is still like up for debate. There's nothing that's come out about him having like interpersonal.
Time will have to pass and bad feelings will have to fester.
It always happens. Remember how much I love James Franco? Like, he was like an angel, then they destroyed him.
We'll see. I mean, was he a darling at like the same level that Harry Styles is at right now?
Well, in Hollywood, I'd say yeah. I mean, he was in so many huge movies. He directed a lot of things.
But did he ever posture as what Harry Styles is trying to be right now?
No, different. I'm just saying, as someone who is loved in Hollywood, Harry Styles is a different type of person, but it's also that type of person, I think, that seems to project the most.
Yeah, and
totally.
they set themselves
that's why
up
I'm
for
saying,
failure.
Like,
he's
is
a secret
the guy
cannibal.
wearing a tutu as non-threatening as he wishes to be perceived?
He thinks he's subverting everything too. It's like everyone's doing. The people who dress like that now are like the jocks of yesterday.
Yep.
Everyone's doing it. It's not counterculture.
It's the opposite of counterculture.
Corporate shills dressed as Barbie dolls.
It's literally him like cashing into a market, if anything.
Yeah.
Also, never trust a male feminist, no matter what you do. Ever.
That's true.
You're
Ever.
right.
Yeah.
Well, you shouldn't trust female feminists either. But
People
you
have
really
no
shouldn't
idea
trust male
how to
feminists.
transgress in art anymore.
Well, it's like there's nothing more annoying when they talk about. We had one the other day. We were talking about somebody's like, it's so hard to. Was it like who was it from Batman? Zoe Kravitz was like, it's so hard to be like edgy with your art now. I'm like, you're the opposite of edgy. Nobody in your sphere is creating edgy or counterculture art at all. Right. That's fine.
You're the daughter of a rock star.
You're not you cannot be edgy and make movies that make $1 billion. You can't do that.
Do you guys think that like suffering is necessary for good art?
No.
Not necessarily.
I think it's unfortunately a good thing to have suffered to understand the human wheel of emotions. But when you're making something, I would strongly advise do whatever you can to not suffer.
Not everybody needs to be Bukowski.
I'm going to put that on a shirt.
There you go.
That's really good. Yeah.
Thanks for watching this clip, guys. If you want to see full episodes or follow us on social media, links are in the description below. Bye.